challenge this week. Hola, Jorge. Hola, Becky.
Hi, Wonka. How are you?
Good. How are you, my friend?
Good. I so wish this could be in person, but this is second best.
This is second best. How is everything in California right now?
Good. We have a nice little heat wave going. So we're
Oh,
in the
really?
we're in the high 90s, so
Wow.
sunshine. Part of the reason I love California. Bring on the heat.
Well, that's part of the reason why I love Boca Raton, Florida, because
Right.
I know you're originally from Massachusetts.
Yeah, I'm a little
Connect.
bit more complicated than that. I was born and raised overseas. And then, yes, my parents kept a house. They were wisely told when raising children overseas, keep ties to your home country. And so, yes, they've had a house in Massachusetts. So when I'm in the US, that's home.
Okay, so let's rock and roll. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go. Fire
Okay.
away.
Okay, Becky. So around 2 months ago, we started the daily conversations with admission counselors, school counselors, students, parents, entrepreneurs, people from all corners of the world, different backgrounds, to talk about one common denominator, education. And today's your turn. Becky Konowics from Santa Clara University, Assistant Dean of Undergraduate Admission and Director of International Admissions. Remember, this video will be on IGTV and also we house them on YouTube. So if you're watching, please, you see that little plane, everybody that is watching, tell your friends that Becky Konowics is live from California. Becky, so let's just start about talking about you. This conversation is about you, your work, your career. Where were you born?
Yeah, so I was born in Nuremberg, Germany. My
Okay,
parents were teachers on a US military base there. And so, yeah, that's where I was born.
okay. And when I think about Becky, I don't know, I always think New England, but I also think sailboats. What's your connection with sailboats? Please tell us.
So sailboats. So one of my main connections might have been where I started my ninth and 10th grade years at a boarding school called
Okay.
Tabor Academy. And part of orientation for ninth grade was to sail a 92-foot schooner up the coast of Maine to
Wow.
bond with some of your other classmates. So yeah, and I'm super excited. My niece is going to be a freshman at Tabor, so she'll be doing the same thing, hopefully, if virtual distancing or social distancing is allowed. She'll be sailing on the same Tabor buoy, hopefully this summer or in the future.
Becky, I love boating, and I will tell you, when we go to the marina, we see the sailing boats next to us, and they look so complicated. I mean, you have the 40 footer, you have the 50, 60, 70 footer. Can you be the captain of any sailboat? Tell us.
No, no. I'm definitely more along for the ride.
Okay.
I enjoy being out on the ocean. I understand the concepts and the rules of the ocean and sort of boating etiquette, but certainly no, I wouldn't be a captain in any way.
So if you're
Someday, maybe my other life.
okay, so we have a lot of people just joining in here. We have Rosen Batch, then we have Rachel Dillon from the American School of
Ah, hi,
Mexico. We
Rachel.
have Nazan, Christian Safi. We have more people coming in. So everyone tell that Becky is here, please. We're talking
Aw.
about Becky today. Becky, so you graduated from Deerfield?
Yes, I did. I switched high schools. Yep.
Okay. And which system did you use in your high school? IB, AP? How was it?
Yeah, it was a little bit of AP and a little bit of their own curriculum. So
Okay.
we were so fortunate and super privileged at Deerfield to have some really bright, looking back on it, really entrepreneurial faculty who really thought and were guided by this idea of creating lifelong learners. And I think that's why I stay in education, right? I love to learn. I'm an avid reader. I can't get enough. My curiosity goes in different directions, and I know I have a lot to thank based on my boarding school experiences, both at Deerfield and Tabor. But Deerfield's curriculum aligns with AP as well as some flexibility of their own sort of, I guess, topical courses that really
Yes.
prepare students today for university.
So you graduated from probably one of the most well-known traditional schools in the country. Everybody knows about your high school, Deerfield. And how old is Deerfield, if you can recall?
Gosh, I think it's older than Harvard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it is quite old. And it had highs and lows, right? I remember hearing stories of, economical impact, and they were borrowing uniforms and to field their sporting events, to now being a thriving, highly selective New England boarding school. But I think the sort of tagline that we were always sort of guided by is be worthy of your heritage. So this idea of understanding your role in community and your role in the world. And no matter what, I think any Deerfield alum that I meet, or a teacher or administrator that I'm still in contact with, you really feel that come through.
And how's the school doing right now in the middle of this pandemic?
Yeah, they just had their graduation.
Okay.
So it was a Memorial Day weekend. And I think they're doing really well. So far from what I can see, adapting to online learning after being a
Yes.
residential boarding school is very, very difficult.
Yes.
But they did it. They did it. And I think, again, it's the power of community and a resilience that the students showed to want to continue their learning in this way.
Becky, so you graduated from one of the top schools in the country, in the world, and I'm sure, how was your connection with your high school counselor back then?
Yeah, it was great. He actually ended up being my little brother's college counselor too, who went to Deerfield. So Mr. Robinson was great. Really down to earth. Really listened. I was, a product of public school teachers. My parents, when they moved back from Germany, taught at a public school on Cape Cod, and so costs were a huge factor. And he really
Yes.
listened to that, saying, I want to go a place where I'm not a little fish, where nobody knew me. I mean, Deerfield, as wonderful as an education was, it could be intimidating at times. And I was like, okay, for college, I want to go someplace where I can thrive. But costs were a huge factor. My whole search was based on finding affordability.
Okay. And if you don't mind sharing your college list, you remember?
Yeah, I do, because it actually makes a lot of sense because of his guidance.
Okay.
And also, my older brother's college counselor. It's so funny how siblings are tied to this. So DePaul was one, DePaul in
Uh-huh.
Indiana, and that
Indiana.
came through from my older brother because it was on his list from his college counselor. And then from there, we added Denison, Kenyon, Ohio Wesleyan, and Franklin and Marshall. So it was kind of, I
Okay.
think of it as
Wow.
the road trip across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana. I knew New England was too many universities, and I was going to look very similar, and I didn't want the same experience that I had in high school. I loved my high school experience, but I wanted something different. So
Okay.
Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana felt far at the time.
So you went on a college trip with your parents?
Just my father. We made it as far as Ohio.
Okay.
So I got to see Kenyon, Denison, and Ohio Wesleyan.
Okay. Wow. That list is amazing. So you graduated 2002
Yes.
from DePaul in Indiana.
Yeah, I
And
did.
go ahead.
And a small story, my admission counselor actually from DePaul, so I never saw DePaul, and I decided to go. Again, great financial aid package and scholarships, but also I had the opportunity to be a Division III athlete, and I really liked the conference they were in. And so I thought, okay, this is the right fit for me. But my college counselor, my admission counselor who came to visit me, turned out I ended up working for her as her work study student. She then
Wow.
hired me as well, but she is the past president of NACAC. So Stephanie
Wow.
Niles, she
You,
has known me
Stephanie.
since I was 17 years old. So shout
Wow.
out to
So
Stephanie
Stephanie,
if
if
she's
you're
out there.
watching, hello, my friend.
Yep.
She's up there. So let's say you finish at DePaul, bachelor's in English Lit, and
Yes.
now I wonder why you like to read so much. And then I see that you got your master's in education from Grand Valley State University. Why did you decided to jump right away into your master's?
Yeah, so if I graduated in 2002, you can imagine what fall of 2001 was.
Yes.
It was September 11th, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a very chaotic time. I watched companies and consulting firms that I thought, you know, oh, I'm going to interview with them, just stopped showing up completely. Lehman Brothers went out of business, Anderson Consulting. I mean, it was just like, I'm watching this. And so again, the benefit of DePaul was a small private liberal arts school. You had so many relationships with staff as well as faculty. From being an RA, an orientation leader, an admission intern, I kept having staff saying, you really like these leadership roles. Why don't you go to grad school? And I was like, what? What is this grad school? And so that's where I got introduced to it, was this idea of sort of, okay, this necessity of the job market's not looking good, but simultaneously thinking about where my skills and my strengths were from other people telling me who had mentored me over 4 years at DePaul. And Grand Valley State, I ended up applying to, I think, a bunch. Like IU was a big program.
Okay.
I think Colorado State was one. I forget all the ones I looked at, but I ended up choosing Grand Valley. Again, a very economical decision. You can see a theme for a middle class family. I really wanted to choose a program where I wouldn't go in debt, have a great internship that was not in residential life. I knew I didn't want to do residential life. And that was affordable to live. And so that's how I found Grand Valley. Again, through a DePaul connection, but landed an internship, and it was completely paid for while I was getting my master's.
So you moved from Indiana to Michigan?
Yes, west coast of Michigan.
West coast of Michigan. Okay. So the weather, the temperature. I mean, you're from Massachusetts.
Yeah, it was pretty similar, but I got ocean back. I got the Great Lakes back. Indiana had very limited water, and so that sailing theme, that water theme, I got it back. Grand Haven, west coast of Michigan is gorgeous. If you haven't been,
Yes.
It really does look like you're looking at the ocean, even though it's fresh water.
Well, good. And here we are, 2020. We went through the 2007, 2008 financial fiasco. And then we're here in the middle of COVID-19. We are learning as human civilization how to move through. There is a lot of reinventing here, a lot of universities opting, and you will give us a little bit of an update. But I have seen personally, we work with graduate students, so I seen that curve of graduate school going up again, particularly in the MBA, Masters in Education, and so forth. We're getting a lot of students calling ourselves our lines and say, hey, can you help us with graduate school? A lot of the millennials, Z generation, unfortunately, they lost their jobs. And we've been sending messages that this is the time to, like what you did. You went to Grand Valley State University, and look who you are right now. You're director of international admissions. You are the president of International ACAC. So I guess the time was right for you. And I tell our students and families, let's move forward. Let's be together. And that's one of the reasons why we have this live, so we can bring leaders like you that can send a good word to our students, our parents, and colleagues. Okay, so you graduated from Grand Valley, and then what? You went back to your alma mater and worked for DePaul? What happened
I did.
there?
I will be honest. I spent about 2 months in the basement of my brother's house in Colorado. So I had no idea what I wanted to do again. But yes, I ended up gravitating towards admission positions. And there was an opening at DePaul. So I interviewed, and yes, I started working for my alma mater. I appreciated having the 2 years out after grad school. But when I got back, it was wonderful. I ended up spending about 5 years there.
5 years. And just 1 second, Becky, I want to say hello to Manu, Sylvia Oyoki. Guess who's here? Kristen Driesen from the UK.
Oh, hi, Kristen.
How are you? And we're going to invite Kristen to be here. We have Jessica from EA. We have Subtle. So everyone, we're here. We're with our rock star here. Becky, so let's tell people, you and I, we traveled together, and our first trip was to Scandinavia, wasn't it?
Yeah, Iceland.
It was Iceland. We went to Norway. We went to Sweden, and I'm missing one country, but
Denmark. Yeah.
Denmark. Yes, we went to Denmark. I remember our beautiful trip to United World College in Bergen and Flecker
Oh,
Fair.
yes, that was like a bus, a train, a ferry
It
just to
was
get there.
incredible. One of the most
Amazing students,
beautiful
amazing
school
students.
I ever been in my life. It was a long journey to go from one island to the other on that big bus, but it was good. And Becky, one of the things that I remember about you, we were at college fairs, and your smile will carry tables, and you have this beautiful way of communicating with families and students. So. Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you do. You do so well. And I will tell you, I wrote something down. When I think about you, this is what I think. I think you are very structured. While you like to have fun, play hard, work hard, but your structure, your discipline, your smile carries determination and action. So that carries. And everybody that is watching, we have here a tremendous leader. Right now, you're an assistant dean, but I see your career in higher education moving up. You are the president of International ACAC, so you could say you're the president of the whole world of education. Uh, I serve on the committee back there, 2014 and 17. I say adios, amigos, but you stayed. Why did you decide to continue into another term? Why did you decide to apply for the presidency position?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. First and foremost, I think when we, are in this field of education, the opportunity to serve and to serve each other in sort of this desire to serve the students better, right? We only are as good as we are as a group to make sure that we have information that's accurate and helpful, and that we get challenged. And so I really saw the organization when I first joined in 2000 much. They're dynamic. They really think about the world differently than my colleagues who were recruiting domestically. And so I found that really interesting. And so I wanted to be in that community. I think joining also a little bit of a personal professional. I was a director of international admission for Santa Clara, but I had no direct reports. I wasn't supervising, and I saw the opportunity to sort of lead and manage volunteers as being as difficult, if not more difficult in some ways, to manage a team someday. And so I saw it personally as some growth opportunity to gain leadership, but in a more supervisory role, and carry out visions and strategies and policies that I wasn't quite getting in my own office because of the way the structure was. And so I continue to see getting involved in your educational, organizations as a way to not only serve the community, but also to serve yourself and your goals of what you're interested in, sort of gaining that maybe your own office couldn't give you.
When you were VP for professional development, do you think that came because of your parents, that inspiration to be an instructor? I mean, VP for professional development is all of the positions with International ACAC are full-time positions. I mean,
Right.
we work hard, but where that inspiration comes from? What do you
I
think?
think it was, I was that child. I have vivid memories growing up in Germany and playing teacher in the neighborhood, and and having a chalkboard or a whiteboard that we would play on with neighborhood kids. And so I do think that that sort of instills in me opportunity of resources. So yeah, VP of PD definitely inspired by teachers at home, but also sort of this idea of a lifelong learner. How do you, if you can teach, you're learning, right? I think it's very difficult to learn something that you can't also teach in some ways.
Well, I tell you, you and the colleagues have taken professional development to the next level with the Scholars Program, bringing so much content, so much leadership and professional content to the conference. Absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, this is where we are right now. There are not many conferences that we can physically attend, but that's why we're here. And I know there is something virtual that might happen down the fall. You have any things that you can share, or some, or not yet?
Yeah. So International ACAC is going virtual. So I had the pleasure of planning the conference as president-elect last year in Canada. So Kathleen Schultz will be planning and is midst planning the virtual conference. I think the biggest thing that we sort of heard our members share over and over again is they want to gather in community, right? Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
virtual or in person. The strength of International ACAC is community, is networking. Yes, content plays a role in that. And so really thinking what can we manage as a volunteer organization to deliver content during a time when people have so much going on, not only in their professional lives with scenario planning for their schools or their universities or their businesses, but also for sort of the summertime, right? Where are people going to be in July? What are they doing? It's very different to plan a travel to see in person versus virtual. And so we're just, I think at this point, trying to be sensitive to meet the most needs that we can in a virtual capacity to ensure that we build community, but we also build content that is relative to what's going on right now. So all of us can serve students better.
Becky, before we move into Santa Clara, I want to ask you a question. Right now, how many members belong to International ACAC and how many countries?
I know it's about 3,300 members.
Wow, wow.
Countries, I think we're just over 70, I think. Don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay, so for parents watching and students watching, this is one of the most incredible organizations around the world. Pretty much oversee higher education, high schools, counselors, independent counselors, educational organizations. So you go to the website International ACAC and you will learn tons about the organization. Becky, so what's going on at Santa Clara? What's happening this summer? You guys are going to be offering courses on campus? Not yet. Are you fully prepared to get the students in the fall? Let's go to Santa Clara University.
Yeah, let's go to Santa Clara. So Santa Clara is in Silicon Valley, California. So we're in the Bay Area. What's going on right now is we've always had about 60% of our courses online in the summer because being in the Bay Area, students want internships, students wanted to travel, our students are so engaged. So putting summer courses online, we were ahead of that years ago to make sure students could do both, right? And that was very successful. So we just put the other 40% online for the summer, and that is going well. Students, are continuing if they need those summer courses or just wanted to. As far as fall right now, it's sort of one of those moments where you realize, okay, wow, a quarter system could make a difference right now.
Okay.
We don't start till the end of September. So a quarter system, we have a little bit of leeway there with a quarter system. So 10 weeks after September brings you into sort of the Thanksgiving time period in the US. And so again, as we look at our calendar, it might actually be a calendar that works really well in this situation as we try and serve students. So our president is gathered all these working groups to sort of scenario plan. So obviously one plan is to come back in person and plan what does that look like with testing and quarantining and social distancing and all those, county and state and federal guidelines. What would that look like for a residential community? We're about 5,300 students. We pride ourselves in, the residential experience, and what is that going to look like with roommates and residence halls. So all that is being planned out for if we can all come back in person. And then you work backwards and you start looking at, okay, what if it's a hybrid? Who's affected? Who can't come to campus? What is their story going to be until we get to a place where everybody's safe with a vaccine and sort of putting COVID-19 to a safe environment. We also are looking at what faculty can manage. Where's their comfort? Same thing with staff. So right now it's all these scenario planning and working groups. We're calling the groups resilience and recovery working groups. And so, how do you start to build resilience around this, but recover at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a crisis that we all went
Yes.
into.
Yes. No, I see. So let me ask you this question. I just got a phone call from a parent in Colombia, in Barranquilla, and she said, Juanca, we are opening the country, Colombia, opening borders in September, second week of September. That's when the president announced that he will let do international travel. So this
The first week of March, there were rumblings. California got hit, Santa Clara County got hit with COVID-19 the earliest. And so we were, already starting to send students home. We were, as a staff, minimizing. And one of our students, like, I really want to do this skateboard tour. And we're like, great idea, run. So her and two other students went around campus and did the skateboard tour. We do offer information sessions. We have Wednesdays, we alternate times to hit all the different time zones of the world. We are constantly trying to do programming to meet students virtually as best as possible. We do look at demonstrated interest. And so,
okay.
there is a registration process. Do make sure you register so that if you apply as a student, you get those sort of demonstrated interest, I guess, event attendance that we are coding and making sure that students are getting valuable information about Santa Clara from us.
Okay, Becky, I am on two WhatsApp groups with high school counselors, from one from the Western Hemisphere and then the other one from around the world. One of the big questions is like, right now, virtual college fairs are going to be booming with a lot of gadgets, 3D animation, and so forth. How do we as counselors recognize which are the college fairs that we can attend? Because I don't know about you, but all of us have been working like, man, so many hours because we got to readjust. So tell us about virtual college fairs and the future of that, if you can share some insights.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting landscape. So, virtual college affairs, I've participated in a few now. I think that on the university side, we're just as conscious of which ones are we, participating in. Some of them have astronomical fees that
Yes,
you
that's what
wonder
I
what's,
heard.
you just don't understand. Okay, so if 5 students visit my booth, I just paid how much for this? Contact lead, is there another way? So I think cost is going to be the biggest factor that prevents
Okay.
or encourages. So if they're free or affordable, might have a higher attendance from the university sides. I think the software platforms are going to be interesting. I was participated in one and they had sort of a chat feature, stop by the virtual booth, and you were sort of there all 8 hours. And the chat feature was really great. I had no concept to on the virtual booth. It took a lot of manpower to build it, but I have
Okay.
no data to say whether it was helpful, right? And so I think
Okay.
universities are going to start putting a lot of pressure on these virtual fairs to be like, okay, prove to me this is going to get me a student who I can engage
Yes.
with, who I can share, who will end up considering applying or end up considering enrolling. And right now, I don't know what comes first, right? You almost have to do the fairs and they have to see. But that's definitely a conversation on our end, is the return on investment, both on our time and also the depth and the sort of content that we are able to give with the students. We know in person, a college fair, some students, as you remember, Wonka, they stop by and it's 5 seconds at your table and they pick up a
Yeah.
brochure and walk away. And you don't know if they look at that brochure later. You have no idea what that impression made. And then other times you sit and have a wonderful 5-minute conversation, 10-minute conversation with a student. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see their application. Virtually, I haven't figured that space out yet. I'm excited.
Okay.
NACAC just shared that they're going to start having virtual fairs. So there's,
Yeah.
I think, a recognizable organization that we know does quality fairs. So I'm excited to see what the virtual space is going to be for them.
Okay. And you stole my question because I was going to ask you if NACAC is preparing virtual college fairs. So you just say that.
Yep,
Just
they
to
just
give
announced
the,
it.
okay, just to give, we have, I think Carolina has born Geosign, a counselor, Sada, Stryker, Brian, Tyler, Flo. I mean, you have a lot of people watching here right now. But
Hi,
I just,
Sarah.
hello, just to give people an idea, a college fair that university participates will cost anywhere from $0 to $1,000 to $1,200.
Oh,
How much
some
is a
of
virtual college fair?
yeah, some of them are going up to 2,800. Some of them are
What?
packaging. Yeah, two,
Wow.
3 fairs. Some of them are like buy a membership, and then there's also fairs to go with it.
Okay.
Some of them are saying it's free. And then
Okay.
if you want the leads and the names,
Of
then
course.
you have to pay for them, right?
Of course.
So it's all a business, right? Sadly, as much as you and I are student centered and we're trying to make sure a student finds the best fit, it's still a business. Education is still a business, and these college fairs, virtually or in person, there is an economics transaction that has to happen, right? You have to pay for the
Yes.
platform, you have to pay for the resources. Um, so that's the piece that I think is causing the range of costs, right?
Okay.
Is I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know where the money is going back to, but there is definitely a large range in costs and a large range on how they're charging universities. It's not just, a registration fee to join the college fair. It comes in all different ways.
So just a pause to say hello to Simon, Lisa, D'Alessio. We're with Becky Konowics, Director of International Missions at Santa Clara University, and we're talking here about college fairs. Simon, un abrazo para ti, tu familia en Colombia. Simon goes to school in Boston, so I
Oh, nice.
know him really well. Becky, you think internationally CAC will venture to create one or two international college fairs, or too premature yet?
Definitely we're exploring it. I think like anybody else, International ACAC wants to serve our members, wants to serve our members' students, and wants to stay nimble and current. So definitely worth exploring. I think the fact that NAC has announced their fairs, and we have seen some great fairs from other organizations that we, sort of, is it too, where do we fit in? Is the field too crowded? Are we a trusted source? Will the universities want to partner with us? Certainly, honestly, as any organization looking for revenue streams, right? We're nonprofit, but we do have staff, we do have expenses. We do want to make sure that as we're staying, fiscally viable for the long term, what are our new revenue streams? What do they look like? I don't know if college fairs is the right place, but
Yes.
certainly if you watch our Facebook page for members, it's quite active with different
Yes.
promotions of everything from individual universities promoting their stuff to larger organizations. And so are we the place that can organize it all? I'm not sure. I think we want to sort of continue to monitor the landscape.
Thank you. And Richard Dillon from Mexico says the virtual fair info is super helpful. Thank you, Becky. So thank you,
No.
Rachel. And I know me with the whole team organizing, centralizing all the data for summer online programs was crazy. We probably received over 150 summer online programs from the US, Europe, Canada, and centralizing that data was absolutely complex. I want to say thank you to Emily Dobson She did a phenomenal job helping us centralizing a lot of that information. So I know we're asking too much for you guys, International ACAC, but thank you again for doing a great job for all of us, our members. Now, let's go back to Santa Clara. What's the percentage of international students, both at the undergraduate level, graduate? And the other question will be fall travel. It is so uncertain. So can you give us an update on those two questions?
Sure. So undergrad, we're at our I will have hit 1,000,000 miles had COVID-19 not happened. So I think as I get their messages, and same thing, I'm a loyal Marriott person, that you get those messages from those CEOs, and as hard as education has been hit, I think the tourism and the travel industry has really been hit hard. And so watching those messages, you're just seeing that as hard as they're working, I think the airlines can't have the travel patterns that they did to get us road warriors, international recruiters all around the world as quickly.
I know.
And to step away from your campus for that long is really difficult. What used to be like quick, I can do 4 days in Taiwan and get home. It's a 10-hour flight from San Francisco. I just don't know if it can be that easy anymore.
Yes.
And so I think we're cautiously going into the fall. We're scenario planning. Same thing with hosting students on campus for tours. I would say any students listening, I don't think if Florida, I know Ed's on there and Rollins is hosting tours now, one family at a time, don't apply that to California. We're not there yet. Don't come flying out here. Many campuses still can't host you. And so we'll take the fall, month by month, but right now I wouldn't plan on much visits from universities, from any university around the world.
So, and what I learned is that you might go to Taiwan, but if you want to go from Taiwan to Thailand, Thailand will say, Becky, by the way, you stay at your hotel for 14 days. So every country will have different quarantine guidelines. So I guess right now it will be too risky to travel in the fall, and we will know. But what I know is that we will move on as a human civilization, and we will go back to our travel, and we will get back to our college fairs. So as we build our immune system. Let's answer this question for Brian, Becky. How will we know about virtual fairs? Where can Brian find more information about virtual fairs?
Yeah, if Brian is a student, first and foremost, he should definitely join the sort of contact us lists at he can pick like 5 universities he's really serious about and join them, because when we decide to do a virtual fair, we would promote it to our contact us list and share like, hey, we're doing this fair. We've done that the last couple fairs. So that way he could hear about them from different universities who are registering. The other places he should be in touch with is his school counselor, college counselor. If he's working with an independent counselor, they might have their radar open. And then signing up for any list, NACAC is sort of the premier one right now where students can register and stay attuned. There's also sometimes with any of the platforms that your school uses to register your application. So the Maya Learning, the C Alpha, the Naviance, any of those organizations, they may also promote college fairs within there. So staying in your database for your school may also give you ideas for what are the college fairs happening.
So we have another question from Simon. Simon, good afternoon. As a potential transfer student, is virtual college fairs the helpful? Meaning he's applying to try in the fall or the spring. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, college fair used to talking to transfers and first year students. So yes, just self-identify. I think it's really helpful before you even start asking questions that you're transferring. That would really help the admission counselor asking any of your questions in person or in virtual setting for a college fair.
Okay, thank you. And remember, Becky talked about demonstrator interest, so that's your answer right there. Brian is actually not a student. He's a college counselor in
Hi,
Bogota,
Brian.
Colombia. Hey,
Okay.
Brian. So if you're a
So
member
for
of
Brian, he should join International ACAC, and he'd see all the fairs on our Facebook and our calendar.
Okay, thank you, Brian. That's your answer. Now, Becky, we are finding ourselves working more hours. We are staying at home and wonderful, and we're cooking meals and exercising and calling family. Do you find this time busier than ever before?
Yes. And I think for an international admission counselor, it got busier than time, right? I think that is as exhausting as this is, it's more energizing than ever because it feels like it's given a second life to education to be entrepreneurial. And so I
Yes.
appreciate that and I try and focus on that.
I know you're super busy and I won't take more time, but I just want to tell you, Becky, just watching your career from DePaul moving into Chapman University, Marcela and the whole team, Hola, and then from there to Salve Regina, where you went back to New England, and then now 7 years at Santa Clara. President of International ACAC, you have done an extraordinary job, and I don't know what else is coming for you, but whatever is coming, I know it will be wonderful. Final thoughts. How would you like to end this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, I want to reflect back on you. I mean, I look back at our adventures together, including a road trip from Rhode Island to Pennsylvania, where we we
How many
spent a lot
hours?
of
Five?
I 5, 6 hours in a 98 Honda that's still alive.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest reflection is for everybody who's listening, it's really make sure your life's work is something you love and is with a community that inspires you, that you don't mind getting a WhatsApp from at any hour to ask a favor, and that you can call on them as well, because that's what will get you through things like a pandemic. Honestly, it's
Mhm.
people, it's lifelong colleagues that become friends, it's friends who become colleagues, it's all of that. And so I'm forever grateful as well to you, Wonka, because you taught me a lot. You were ahead. You and Stefano and the Lynn crowd have always been so inspiring in the field, and I feel fortunate to send one of my staff members to go work there now. And so all your time and now the team that you have at JC T4 education is just as wonderful. So keep up the great work as well. You guys are paving the way and doing unique and inspiring things that serve students.
No, we're trying. We're trying to move on, and we're trying to do like community service. And this is what I tell the students. This is our community service. Bringing colleagues like yours, like you, to this life helps a lot. It sends a message. Remember, to the ones that couldn't be here on our live, this video will be on IGTV, also on our YouTube channel, JCT for Education, for you Becky, you've been amazing, extraordinary, and I hope to see you soon and give you a big hug.
Yes, hugs, kisses, cheek
Hug
kisses.
to
We
you,
do it
kisses,
all.
chocolate. Becky loves chocolate,
I
so
do love
take care,
chocolate.
Becky.
Okay.
Thank you
Bye,
so
everybody.
much.
Thanks for listening in. Take
Adios.
care.
Ciao. Take care. Bye bye.